The air in the attic hung thick with dust motes dancing in the single weak beam of light from the bare bulb overhead. It smelled like forgotten memories and decay. My fingers were trembling, tracing the edges of this cheap, battered cardboard box tucked away behind a stack of old suitcases. It felt impossibly heavy, like it contained lead weights instead of just paper. Chloe had always told me this box was just old college stuff, sentimental junk she couldn't bear to part with but didn't want cluttering up our apartment. Just memories, babe. She'd laughed it off whenever I'd offered to help her sort through it when we moved in together 6 months ago. Nothing important. Nothing important. God, the irony hits like a physical blow now. I was up here looking for an old photo album of my grandparents, something my mom wanted for their anniversary party next week. Just digging around, you know? Innocuous. Normal. And then I saw it. Tucked away in the back, almost deliberately hidden. Curiosity. It's a dangerous thing, isn't it? A little voice whispered, just leave it. It's her stuff. But another, louder voice, fueled by something I hadn't even let myself name yet, a persistent, low-level hum of unease that had been growing for months. That voice screamed, look inside. So I did. I lifted the flimsy lid. Inside, nestled beneath dusty yearbooks and faded concert tees, were photos. Stacks of them. Not just blurry phone snaps or goofy college party pics. These were professional, glossy, posed, and my blood ran absolutely cold. It wasn't just any photos. They were engagement photos. Her. Chloe. My Chloe. Smiling radiantly, looking deeply into the eyes of another man. And not just any man. It was Ben. Ben, her ex from years ago. Ben, the guy she swore up and down was just a friend. The guy she met for coffee, just to catch up. The guy whose late-night text she always explained away as him needing advice about his own messy love life. Ben. He's like a brother to me, Alex, honestly. You're being insecure. That's what she'd said, her eyes wide and earnest, maybe a flicker of annoyance I hadn't registered at the time. She cupped my face, kissed me softly, told me I was the only one she wanted, the only one she loved. And like a fool, like an absolute blind idiot, I believed her. I pushed down the knots in my stomach, told myself I was being possessive, unfair. There she was, in these goddamn photos, wearing a delicate white dress, leaning against him in a field of wildflowers, sunlight catching the diamond ring on her left hand. His hand possessively on her waist. Another shot, them laughing, heads thrown back, the picture of romantic bliss. Another, a close-up, their foreheads touching, eyes locked. The intimacy, it wasn't nostalgic. It felt current, real, too real. My breath hitched. My stomach churned violently, threatening to bring up the lunch I'd barely touched earlier. It felt like the floor had just dropped out from under me, sending me plummeting into an icy abyss. Just a friend. The words echoed in my head, mocking me, twisting like rusty knives in my gut. How long? How long had this been going on? Were these old? Were they recent? I frantically flipped through them, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped them. No dates printed on the back, damn it. But the style, the quality, it looked recent. Too recent. Let me back up for a second, just so you understand. I'm Alex. I'm 29, a software developer. Nothing glamorous, but I do okay. I met Chloe 3 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. She was incandescent. Funny, sharp, beautiful in this way that felt both effortless and captivating. We clicked instantly. It felt like finding a missing piece of myself. We fell hard and fast. The first 2 years were perfect, or seemed perfect. We traveled, we built a life. We talked about the future, marriage, kids, the whole 9 yards. She was my best friend, my confidant, my everything. Everyone said we were the it couple. We moved in together 6 months ago, into this apartment that was supposed to be our stepping stone to buying a house next year. It felt like the natural next step, cementing our future. Ben was always there, hovering at the edges. She told me about him early on. They dated in college, a passionate but tumultuous thing, ended mutually, she said. Stayed friends. Best friends, even. I tried to be cool about it. Really, I did. What kind of guy forbids his girlfriend from having male friends, right? Especially one she had history with but claimed was firmly in the past. But there were signs. Little things I dismissed. The way her face would light up, maybe a little too brightly, when his name popped up on her phone. The slight defensiveness in her voice if I asked casual questions about their meetups. The inside jokes I wasn't privy to. The sudden increase in those catch-up coffees over the last few months. Her phone became glued to her hand, always angled away from me. She started working late more often, blaming deadlines at her marketing job. Little inconsistencies in her stories that I'd brushed off, attributing them to my own fatigue or paranoia. God, the paranoia she accused me of, maybe it wasn't paranoia at all. Maybe it was my gut screaming a warning I refused to hear. Finding these photos, it wasn't just a crack in the foundation. It was a goddamn sinkhole swallowing everything I thought was real. Every shared laugh, every whispered, "I love you," every promise about our future, it all felt tainted now, coated in this sickening layer of deceit. Were those late nights at work really spent hunched over spreadsheets, or wrapped in his arms? Were those friend texts actually filled with declarations of love, plans for a future that didn't include me? The ring in the photo, had she worn it recently? Hidden it? Taken it off just before coming home to me? My mind raced, connecting dots I hadn't even realized existed. A weekend trip she took with her girlfriends a couple of months back. Was Ben there? The sudden work emergency that pulled her away from my birthday dinner in July? The way she'd sometimes look at me with this strange mix of affection and pity? Was that pity? Oh God. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. Nausea rose in my throat again. I felt dizzy, disoriented. The dusty attic air felt suffocating. I needed to get out, needed fresh air, needed to think. But my feet felt nailed to the floorboards. I looked at the photos again, forcing myself to see the details. The way he looked at her. The way she looked at him. It wasn't the look of friendship. It was possession. It was love. A love she was actively sharing with him while pretending to build a life with me. Engagement photos. Not just "we used to be engaged" photos. The energy, the setting, Chloe's haircut. It was the style she'd gotten just 3 months ago. 3 months ago. While living with me. While sleeping in my bed. While telling me she loved me. The sheer audacity of it. The depth of the betrayal. It wasn't just cheating. It was psychological warfare. It was building a dream with one hand while meticulously constructing its demolition with the other. And I was the clueless fool living in the condemned building, oblivious to the ticking time bomb beneath my feet. Who does that? Who lives a double life with that level of complexity, that level of cold-hearted calculation? Was any of it real? Our relationship, her feelings, the future we planned? Or was I just a placeholder? A convenience? A safety net while she figured things out with the love of her life? The questions hammered at my brain, each one more painful than the last. Anger started to bubble beneath the shock, a hot, molten rage threatening to consume me. How could she? How dare she? After everything I'd given her, everything we'd built? I sank down onto an old trunk, the photos fanned out on my lap, the dust sticking to my sweaty palms. The silence in the attic was deafening, broken only by my own ragged breathing and the frantic thumping in my chest. What now? What do I do now? Do I confront her? Do I pack my bags and just disappear? Do I burn the whole damn box? The image of her walking through the door later, smiling that sweet, deceptive smile, asking about my day, it made me physically ill. How could I even look at her without screaming? How could I pretend for one more second that everything was okay when my entire world had just been detonated? And then, as if summoned by my chaotic thoughts, I heard it. Faintly, from downstairs. The unmistakable sound of keys jingling, the scrape of one turning in the front door lock. She was home. Early. My blood turned to ice water in my veins. Every muscle in my body seized up. Panic clawed at my throat. She couldn't find me like this, surrounded by the evidence of her monumental betrayal. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, trapped between the horrifying discovery and the imminent confrontation. The sound of the front door opening, her cheerful voice calling out, "Alex? Honey, I'm home," echoed up the narrow attic stairs. It sounded alien, monstrous. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat signaling the start of something terrible. This wasn't just a lie I'd uncovered. This felt like stepping through a mirror into a twisted, parallel reality where nothing was as it seemed. And she was walking right towards me, completely unaware that I knew. That her carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. The photos felt like burning embers in my hands. The air crackled with unspoken tension. What was I going to do? What was I going to say? The footsteps started on the stairs. Closer. Closer. My world wasn't just falling apart. It felt like it was about to explode. The footsteps paused right outside the attic door. "Alex? Are you up there? What are you doing in the dusty old crypt?" Chloe's voice, laced with that playful tone I used to find so endearing, now grated on my nerves like nails on a chalkboard. I couldn't speak. My throat was constricted, tight with a toxic cocktail of rage, grief, and disbelief. I just sat there, frozen on the trunk, the damning engagement photos spread across my lap like exhibits in a trial I hadn't known I was a part of. The door creaked open, casting more light into the gloomy space. And there she stood, framed in the doorway, looking picture-perfect as always, hair slightly tousled from the wind, cheeks flushed, that familiar bright smile plastered on her face. A smile that now looked utterly grotesque, a mask hiding unspeakable deceit. Her eyes scanned the attic, confusion flickering across her features as she took in the scene, me, pale and trembling, surrounded by the contents of her secret box. Her gaze dropped to the photos in my lap. The smile didn't just falter, it evaporated. Instantly, replaced by a sudden, stark pallor, her eyes widening in unmistakable panic. For a fraction of a second, pure, unadulterated fear flashed across her face before she quickly tried to school her features into something resembling innocent confusion. But it was too late. I saw it. I saw the guilt. Alex? What are those? Her voice was strained, a little too high-pitched. She took a hesitant step inside, her eyes darting between me and the photos like a cornered animal assessing escape routes. I finally found my voice, though it came out rough, choked. What are these, Chloe? I held up one of the most incriminating shots, the close-up, their foreheads touching, the ring prominent on her finger. You told me this box was just old college junk. You told me Ben was just a friend. You told me. My voice broke, the sheer weight of her lies crushing me. What the hell is this? She flinched as if struck. Oh my God, Alex, where did you find those? She rushed forward, trying to snatch them from my hands, but I jerked back protectively. Those are ancient. From years ago, before I even met you. We were young and stupid. We thought we were in love. It meant nothing. Her words tumbled out in a frantic rush, a desperate attempt to weave a plausible story. Ancient. I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm I didn't know I possessed. Really? Because this hairstyle, I tapped the photo, you got this cut 3 months ago. After we moved in together. And this dress. Funny, it looks remarkably similar to the one you bought for that friend's wedding you went a solo last month because I had that work deadline. Was Ben the groom, Chloe? Or were you just practicing? The color drained completely from her face. She stammered, No, it's not. You're twisting things. Why were you snooping through my private stuff anyway? Don't you trust me? Trust her? The audacity. The sheer, unmitigated gall to throw trust in my face right now. A humorless, broken laugh escaped my lips. Trust you? Are you kidding me, Chloe? Look at these. Engagement photos. With the guy you swore was like a brother. How deep does this go? How long has this charade been going on? Her eyes filled with tears, crocodile tears, I realized with sickening clarity. Okay, look, she sobbed, sinking to her knees on the dusty floorboards, adopting a posture of pathetic contrition. It's complicated. Ben and I, we reconnected. It was a mistake. We got caught up in nostalgia, maybe talked about what-ifs, but it didn't mean anything, Alex. I swear. It was just confusing. Confusing. I stood up, the photos scattering around my feet. The rage was building again, hot and righteous. Getting secretly engaged to your ex while living with your boyfriend isn't confusing, Chloe. It's betrayal. It's calculated. Were you ever going to tell me? Or were you just going to keep juggling us both until you decided who offered the better deal? No, it wasn't like that. She insisted, reaching for my hand, but I recoiled as if burned. I love you, Alex. You have to believe me. This thing with Ben, it was stupid, a moment of weakness. These photos, we took them on a whim. It was more like a joke, a fantasy. A joke? A fantasy? Professional photographers? Diamond rings? Secret boxes? The lies were so clumsy, so insulting to my intelligence, it fueled my fury further. Stop lying to me. I roared, the sound echoing in the confined space. Just for once, stop treating me like an idiot. Look me in the eye and tell me the truth. Her facade finally crumbled completely. The tears turned real, desperate. Okay. We started talking again about 6 months ago, right before we moved in, she choked out between sobs. Old feelings resurfaced. He said he still loved me, that he made a mistake letting me go. And I was scared, Alex. Scared about settling down, about the future. He caught me at a weak moment. A weak moment that lasted 6 months? I shot back, my voice cold. A weak moment that involved getting secretly engaged? While telling me you loved me? While planning our future? He pressured me, she cried. He said if I really loved him, I'd prove it. The photos were his idea. He paid for them. He said it would help me realize who I truly wanted. Blaming him. Classic. But even amidst her pathetic excuses, the horrifying timeline became clear. This wasn't just a recent slip-up. This had been going on, overlapping directly with the biggest step in our relationship, moving in together. She looked me in the eye, talked about paint colors and furniture arrangements, all while secretly planning a life with someone else. The betrayal felt premeditated, malignant. Just then, as if scripted by the devil himself, her phone, which she dropped on the floor in her distress, started ringing. The screen lit up. The caller ID displayed a single name, Ben. We both froze, staring at the phone as it vibrated accusingly on the dusty floorboards. The irony was so thick, so cruel, you could cut it with a knife. Chloe lunged for it, but I was faster. I snatched it up before she could react. Her eyes widened in sheer terror. Alex, don't. I ignored her plea, my thumb hovering over the answer icon. A chilling calm washed over me, extinguishing the hot rage and leaving behind something colder, sharper. Determination. I answered the call, putting it on speakerphone. Hey babe, Ben's voice, smooth and confident, filled the tense silence of the attic. Just checking in. Did you talk to him yet? Is the coast clear? I booked the restaurant for tonight, like we planned. Time to celebrate breaking the news, right? Silence. Utter, deafening silence. Chloe looked like she'd seen a ghost, her face ashen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Ben, sensing the dead air, spoke again, a hint of confusion in his voice. Chloe? You there? Everything okay? I finally spoke, my voice low and dangerously steady. She's a little busy right now, Ben. Seems we had some conflicting plans. A sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. A pause. Then cautiously, Alex. The one and only, I replied, the sarcasm biting. Funny, I thought Chloe was having dinner with her sick friend tonight. Seems the patient made a miraculous recovery. Or maybe, the illness was just another part of the elaborate fiction you two cooked up. Alex, man, look. Ben started, his confident tone dissolving into nervous stammering. It's not what you think. Oh, I think it's exactly what I think. I cut him off, my voice hardening. I'm looking at your engagement photos right now, taken 3 months ago, while she was living with me. So please, spare me the pathetic excuses. I could almost hear Ben sweating through the phone. Chloe was openly weeping now, muttering, oh God, oh God, oh God. Listen, Alex, I can explain. Ben tried again. There's nothing to explain, I said, the finality in my voice unmistakable. But congratulations, I guess. You won. You can have her. And with that, I ended the call, tossing the phone back onto the pile of her things. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Chloe just knelt there, sobbing uncontrollably. But my sympathy, whatever lingering shred might have remained, had vanished. Seeing her pathetic display, hearing Ben's casual confirmation of their plans, it solidified something within me. This wasn't just a heartbreak, it was a demolition. And I wasn't going to just crawl out of the rubble. Get your stuff, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. She looked up, her face streaked with tears and dust. What? Alex, please. Don't do this. We can fix this. I made a terrible mistake. Please, give me another chance. A chance. I scoffed. A chance to what? Lie to me more? String me along until you find someone better? No, Chloe. There are no more chances. You made your choice when you put that ring on your finger, when you smiled for those photos, when you planned your celebratory dinner with him for tonight. You just forgot to tell me I wasn't invited to your new life. I turned and walked towards the attic door, needing desperately to get away from her, from the suffocating atmosphere of betrayal. Pack your things. All of them. I want you out of this apartment by the time I get back. Get back? Where are you going? She cried, scrambling to her feet. Out, I said curtly, not looking back. I need air. And I need to think. But make no mistake, Chloe. We are done. Completely. Utterly. Done. I walked down the stairs, each step feeling heavy but resolute. The sound of her renewed, desperate sobs followed me, but they didn't penetrate the wall of ice that had formed around my heart. As I reached the bottom, my own phone buzzed. It was my best friend, Mark. I ignored it for a second, then realized I needed something. Someone. I answered. Hey man, you okay? Sounded weird earlier, Mark's concerned voice came through. No, Mark, I said, my voice cracking slightly despite my resolve. Not okay. Not even close. Can you? Can you meet me? I need to talk. Yeah, of course. Where are you? Doesn't matter. Just away from here, I said, pulling open the front door and stepping out into the rain, which had started to fall harder. The cold drops felt strangely cleansing on my skin. As I walked away from the apartment, away from the wreckage of my life, a single thought burned through the fog of pain and anger. This wasn't just about surviving. This was about reclaiming what she tried to steal: my dignity, my future, my self-respect. She thought she could play me, discard me? She had no idea who she was dealing with. The shock was fading, replaced by a chilling clarity. She didn't just break my heart, she underestimated my resolve. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of hers. And it wasn't going to be pretty. The plan wasn't fully formed yet, but the seeds were sown. She wanted a dramatic exit from my life? Oh, I give her one. One she'd never forget. The next 48 hours were a blur of controlled chaos, fueled by caffeine, Mark's unwavering support, and a cold, simmering fury that had sharpened into laser focus. Leaving the apartment that day, meeting Mark at a quiet bar, laying out the whole sordid story, the just a friend, lies, the hidden box, the engagement photos, the phone call with Ben, it felt like purging a poison. Mark, bless him, didn't just offer platitudes. He listened, he got angry for me, and then he helped me strategize. He reminded me that Chloe and I weren't married, but we lived together for 6 months, mingled finances to some extent for shared bills and furniture, and most importantly, she had deliberately deceived me on a massive scale. This wasn't just about emotional justice. It was about practical separation and ensuring she didn't walk away benefiting from her deceit. While I was out, Chloe had apparently called Ben, who must have come over immediately. Neighbors later told Mark they saw Ben helping her load boxes into his car late that night. Good. Let him deal with her immediate fallout. When I finally returned to the apartment late the next day, armed with Mark and a game plan, the place felt eerily empty but also lighter. Most of her stuff was gone, but she left behind things that were inconvenient to move, things we'd bought together, and, crucially, a lingering sense of entitlement. She'd sent me a barrage of texts, alternating between tearful apologies, accusations of cruelty, and demands for her share of certain items. Particularly the expensive new sofa and the large-screen TV we'd purchased jointly just a few months prior, mostly on my credit card, though she'd promised to pay half later. Fat chance of that now. The plan Mark and I devised wasn't about petty revenge, not exactly. It was about a clean break, absolute clarity, and ensuring the consequences of her actions landed squarely on her shoulders, not mine. It was about exposure, but strategically deployed. We needed to neutralize her ability to spin the narrative, to play the victim, which I knew she would try to do with our mutual friends and possibly even her family, who had always adored me. Step 1 was securing my own position. I changed the locks immediately. I went through our shared accounts. Thankfully, we hadn't fully merged finances, mostly just using apps for shared expenses. I meticulously documented everything I had paid for, especially the big-ticket items she was now demanding. I gathered the evidence, the photos. I'd taken high-res pictures of them before leaving the attic, screenshots of her texts, even a recording of that damning phone call with Ben. Most states, including ours, allow recording if one party consents. And I consented. Step 2 was controlling the narrative. Chloe had already started texting some of our mutual friends, spinning a vague tale about us having a huge fight, and me kicking her out unfairly. She was painting herself as heartbroken and wronged. We couldn't let that stand. Mark and I decided on a preemptive strike. Not a mass email or a social media rant. That would be too messy, too desperate. Instead, we identified the key people in our shared circle, the ones whose opinions mattered, the ones Chloe would likely try hardest to manipulate. We decided to arrange a small, carefully curated gathering. The perfect opportunity presented itself. A long-planned housewarming party for our friends Sarah and Tom, scheduled for that upcoming Saturday. Everyone would be there. Our core group. People who had watched my relationship with Chloe blossom. People who liked us both. Chloe would definitely be there, likely clinging to Ben, ready to play the wronged woman. It was the perfect stage. I spent the days leading up to the party in a state of numb efficiency. Packing away the remnants of Chloe's presence in the apartment felt like excising a tumor. Every item, every scent, every memory was a painful reminder, but I pushed through it. I replied to Chloe's demanding text with cold, brief messages, stating only that we would discuss the division of property at an appropriate time. This vagueness seemed to unnerve her, which was exactly the point. Saturday arrived. I felt sick with nerves, but also a strange sense of calm determination. Mark picked me up. "You ready for this, man?" he asked, his expression serious. "As I'll ever be," I replied, taking a deep breath. "Let's do this." We walked into Sarah and Tom's place. The party was in full swing, music playing, people chatting and laughing. And then I saw them, Chloe and Ben, standing near the kitchen, holding hands. Chloe was putting on a brave face, smiling tightly, but her eyes scanned the room nervously. Ben looked smug, possessive, like he'd won a prize. A wave of nausea hit me, but I forced it down. Mark gave my shoulder a reassuring squeeze. We mingled for a bit, greeting friends, accepting sympathetic looks from those who'd heard Chloe's version, and polite but cooler greetings from others who sensed something more was going on. I kept my composure, acting normal, even managing a few strained laughs. Chloe watched my every move, clearly trying to gauge my mood, my intentions. The moment came about an hour into the party. Sarah and Tom called for everyone's attention to make a toast. After their short speech, Mark subtly caught Sarah's eye. We'd given her a heavily edited heads-up, just enough to know something needed to be addressed, without dragging her into the drama beforehand. Sarah, looking slightly nervous but supportive, nodded almost imperceptibly. As the applause for the hosts died down, I stepped forward slightly, clearing my throat. The room quieted, all eyes turning to me. Chloe tensed, her grip tightening on Ben's hand. "Hey everyone," I began, my voice steady despite the hammering in my chest. "Sorry to hijack the moment, but there's something I need to clear up. I know there's been some talk about Chloe and me splitting up, and I just wanted to address it directly, among friends." Chloe shot me a panicked look, mouthing, "Alex, don't." Ben put a protective arm around her, glaring daggers at me. "Chloe has told some of you that we had a fight and I kicked her out," I continued, keeping my tone calm, factual. "That's not quite the full picture. You see, I discovered something recently. Something that explains why our relationship ended so abruptly." I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking slightly now, but I kept my voice even. "Chloe told me for years that her ex, Ben," I nodded towards him, letting the name hang in the air, "was just a friend. Like a brother. Someone I shouldn't worry about." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. People glanced uncomfortably between me, Chloe, and Ben. "Turns out," I said, my voice hardening slightly, "their friendship involved a little more commitment than I realized." I swiped through my phone, then turned the screen towards the group, displaying the most damning of the engagement photos, the romantic pose, the ring clearly visible. I found these hidden in our apartment. Engagement photos. Taken 3 months ago. While she was living with me. While we were planning our future together. A collective gasp went through the room. People stared, mouths agape. The shift in atmosphere was palpable, confusion turning into shock, sympathy for Chloe instantly evaporating, replaced by stunned disbelief directed at her and Ben. Chloe went deathly pale. "Alex, stop it. Those are old. You know they are," she cried, her voice shrill with desperation. Ben looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole, his smugness replaced by sheer panic. "Are they, Chloe?" I asked quietly, dangerously. I held up the phone again, this time playing a snippet of the recorded call, just enough for people to hear Ben's voice clearly. "Did you talk to him yet? Is the coast clear? I booked the restaurant for tonight, like we planned. Time to celebrate breaking the news, right?" Silence. Pin drop silence. The implications were undeniable. Chloe wasn't just caught. She was exposed, utterly and completely, in front of everyone she knew. Her carefully crafted victim narrative crumbled into dust. Her face crumpled. The fake tears were replaced by genuine, humiliated sobs. "How could you?" she whispered, looking at me with a mixture of hatred and desperation. Ben tried to pull her away, muttering, "Let's go, Chloe," but she seemed frozen, rooted to the spot by the weight of everyone's stares. "How could I?" I repeated, the cold fury finally breaking through my calm facade. "How could you? How could you live with me, sleep next to me, tell me you loved me, all while secretly engaged to him? How could you plan your celebration dinner for the night you were supposed to break my heart? You didn't just cheat, Chloe. You orchestrated a betrayal of epic proportions. You built a relationship on lies." People started looking away, embarrassed, disgusted. Some started whispering amongst themselves. Sarah and Tom looked horrified. Ben, realizing the situation was unsalvageable, grabbed Chloe's arm more firmly. "We're leaving," he snarled, practically dragging her towards the door. Chloe looked back at me one last time, her eyes filled with a toxic brew of shame, fury, and, finally, a flicker of something that looked devastatingly like regret. Not regret for hurting me, perhaps, but regret for getting caught. Regret for the spectacular implosion of her reputation. As they stumbled out the door, a heavy, awkward silence descended on the party. Nobody knew what to say. Mark stepped up beside me again. I felt drained, empty, but also vindicated. The truth was out. Her lies were exposed. I turned back to the stunned crowd. "Sorry to ruin the party, everyone," I said, my voice tired but firm. I couldn't let the lies stand. As for the sofa and the TV, I added, making eye contact with a couple of friends I knew Chloe had complained to, consider them collateral for the emotional distress. She can send me the receipts if she disagrees. A few people chuckled darkly. The tension broke slightly. I didn't stay much longer. I thanked Sarah and Tom, accepted a few quiet words of support, and let Mark drive me home. Walking back into the apartment, the silence felt different this time. Not empty, but clean. Cleansed. The confrontation was brutal, yes. Exposing her like that in front of everyone felt harsh, even to me, in the aftermath. But it was necessary. It was the only way to lance the boil of her deception, to prevent her from poisoning my reputation along with my memories. She lost her audience. She lost her credibility. Ben got his prize, but a tarnished one, exposed as the homewrecker he was. They were left with only each other and the wreckage they created. As for me, I was left with the pain. Yes, the scars were deep, but I was also left with the truth, my dignity intact, and the support of friends who now saw the reality of the situation. The immediate consequence for Chloe and Ben was public humiliation and social exile from our circle. The consequence for me was the beginning of a long, hard road to healing, but a road I could walk with my head held high. The climax was over. The dust was beginning to settle. And for the first time since finding that box, I felt a sliver of hope that I might actually survive this. The path forward was uncertain, but one thing was crystal clear. Chloe and Ben were firmly, irrevocably in my rearview mirror. We were done here. Utterly and finally done. A year can feel like a lifetime, especially when you spend it consciously rebuilding one from the ground up. 18 months, actually, have passed since that awful night at Sarah and Tom's party, since the photos, the confrontation, the explosive end of what I thought was my life. It wasn't easy. There were days swallowed by grief, nights haunted by anger and phantom limb syndrome where I'd roll over expecting her to be there, only to be hit with the cold, hard reality all over again. Healing isn't linear. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. It's messy, it doubles back on itself. It ambushes you in the supermarket aisle when you see your favorite brand of coffee. But slowly, painstakingly, day by day, week by week, I put the pieces back together. Not the old pieces. Those were shattered beyond repair. New pieces. Stronger pieces. The immediate aftermath of the party was telling. My phone, which had been flooded with Chloe's desperate texts and calls, went silent. So did Ben's number. It seemed the public exposure had finally driven home the point. There was no way back. Mutual friends, almost unanimously, sided with me. Not just out of loyalty, but out of genuine shock and disgust at the depth of Chloe's and Ben's deception. They had tried to play everyone, and it backfired spectacularly. Sarah and Tom felt awful their party became the stage for the drama, but they, like others, expressed relief that the truth was out, that the awkwardness of navigating Chloe's vague victim narrative was over. The social fallout for Chloe and Ben was swift and brutal. They became pariahs within our circle. Invitations dried up. Awkward encounters were avoided. They were left in the little bubble of their own making. And what became of them? Well, karma, or perhaps just the natural consequence of building a relationship on such toxic foundations, didn't take long to deliver its verdict. Mark, who still has a few tangential connections to their periphery, gave me occasional updates, usually only when I asked, which became less and less frequent over time. Their triumphant reunion, apparently, imploded within about 6 months. Shocking, right? Who knew that a relationship reignited through lies, deceit, and the wreckage of another person's life wouldn't be built to last? Apparently, the pressure got to them. The social isolation, the constant reminder of how they got together, the inherent lack of trust, because if she could do that to me, why wouldn't she do it to him? And if he could encourage her to betray me, what stopped him from betraying her? Reports where they fought constantly, bitterly, blaming each other for their ruined reputations and shrinking social lives. Ben, whose smug confidence had evaporated the second he was exposed, apparently couldn't handle being the bad guy. He resented Chloe for putting him in that position, conveniently forgetting his own role in the entire affair. Chloe, stripped of her support network and facing the reality of the man she'd thrown her life away for, allegedly became demanding and insecure. Last I heard, maybe 6 or 7 months ago now, Ben had dumped her. Just like that. Apparently, the prize wasn't worth the trouble once the thrill of the forbidden chase was over and the reality of their actions set in. Chloe, well, her situation is reportedly less than stellar. She lost her footing, both socially and, from what I gather, professionally. The marketing world can be small. Whispers travel. She couldn't afford our old neighborhood on her own, especially after failing to get any settlement from me regarding the furniture, my documentation, and the clear circumstances of the breakup made that a non-starter. Rumor has it she had to move back to her hometown, living with her parents. A far cry from the sophisticated city life she craved, the life she likely thought Ben, perhaps perceived as more successful or exciting at the time, could offer her better than stable, reliable me. Did she ever try to reach out again? Once. About a year ago, I received a long, rambling email. It was filled with justifications disguised as apologies, self-pity masquerading as remorse. It spoke of loneliness, regret, how she realized too late what she'd thrown away. It ended with a tentative question about meeting for coffee, just to talk. I read it, felt a brief flicker of, not anger, not even sadness anymore, just a profound sense of emptiness where my feelings for her used to be. I deleted it without replying. Blocked her email address. Some doors need to stay closed. Permanently. And me? That first year was about survival, then stability. I threw myself into work, not as an escape, but as a focus. My performance, ironically, improved dramatically. Without the constant low-level anxiety and distraction of Chloe's hidden life humming beneath the surface, I had more clarity, more energy. I got a significant promotion, leading a major project I wouldn't have had the bandwidth to even consider before. The financial stability was empowering, a concrete symbol of my independence and resilience. I reconnected with hobbies I'd let slide, hiking, photography. I strengthened bonds with friends like Mark, people who showed up without question, whose loyalty was proven under fire. I spent time with my family, letting their uncomplicated love be a balm. Did I jump back into dating? Not immediately. The idea of trusting someone that intimately again felt daunting, terrifying, even. I went to therapy for a while, which helped immensely. Unpacking the betrayal, understanding the dynamics, but most importantly, recognizing the red flags I had ignored, not out of stupidity, but out of a desire to believe the best, to trust the person I loved. It taught me the difference between healthy trust and willful blindness. It taught me that my worth wasn't tied to her validation or her betrayal. About 6 months ago, I did start dating again. Cautiously at first. But then I met Anna. Through mutual friends, ironically, but once far removed from the old circle. Anna is different. Calm, grounded, fiercely intelligent, and refreshingly honest. There are no games, no hidden agendas. She knows my history. I was upfront about it early on, not in excruciating detail, but the broad strokes. She wasn't scared off. She respected my resilience. With her, it feels easy, safe, like building on solid ground, not quicksand. We're taking things slow, but it feels right, hopeful. Whether it leads to forever or not, meeting her proved to me that my capacity for connection wasn't destroyed, just damaged. It showed me that genuine, healthy relationships are possible after betrayal. I did have one final, unexpected encounter. A few weeks ago, I was grabbing coffee downtown near my office. As I waited for my order, I saw her, Chloe, standing by the condiment station, looking diminished. Her usual vibrant energy was gone, replaced by a kind of weary resignation. She looked older, tired. Our eyes met across the crowded cafe. That familiar jolt of panic, the ghost of past pain, flickered for a nanosecond, but then, nothing. Just a strange, detached sense of recognition, like seeing someone you vaguely knew from a past life. She looked startled, then deeply uncomfortable, quickly looking away, grabbing her coffee, and practically fleeing the shop. I didn't follow. I didn't feel the need to say anything, to gloat, to offer pity. Her reaction, her visible discomfort, and my complete lack of emotional response told me everything I needed to know. I had moved on. Truly, completely moved on. She was a chapter, a dark and painful one, but definitively closed. Looking back now, 18 months later, the rage is gone. The acute pain has faded into a dull scar, a reminder of a battle fought and survived. Do I hate her? No. Hate takes too much energy I'd rather invest in my own happiness, in building a future she has no part in. Do I forgive her? That's a complex word. I don't condone what she did, not for a second. But I've released the bitterness. Holding on to it only poisons myself. Maybe the best I can offer is indifference. She's irrelevant to my life now. The whole ordeal, as agonizing as it was, taught me invaluable lessons. About trusting my gut instincts. About the importance of transparency in a relationship. About demanding respect and recognizing my own worth. It showed me who my real friends were. And ultimately, it forced me onto a path of self-discovery and growth that, ironically, led me to a better place, a stronger sense of self, and a more hopeful future than the one I thought I'd lost. Sometimes, the most devastating endings are just painful beginnings in disguise. You just have to survive the demolition to see the blueprint for what comes next. And what comes next finally looks bright. And that brings us to the end of today's story. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly hope to see you again for more fascinating tales ahead. If you enjoyed it, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our next adventure. See you soon.